Just an FYI, we are in gallery mode on the live stream.
Thank you.
Okay, we're good. Sergeants, at this time, you can start your recordings.
PC recording all set.
According to the cloud, underway.
Backup is rolling.
Thank you. Good morning and welcome to today's remote New York City Council hearing for the Subcommittee on Landmarks, Public Sightings, and Dispositions. At this time, would all panelists please turn on their video for verification purposes, and to minimize disruptions while speaking, please place all electronic devices to vibrate or silent mode. If you'd like to submit testimony, please send via email to landusetestimony@council.nyc.gov. Again, that is landusetestimony@council.nyc.gov. Thank you for your cooperation. Chair Lewis, we are ready to begin.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm Councilmember Farah Lewis, Chair to the Subcommittee on Landmarks, Public Sightings, and Dispositions. I'm joined today by my colleagues, Councilmembers De La Rosa, Feliz, Ung, Marte, Nurse, Richardson, Jordan, and Majority Leader Powers. Our thoughts and prayers are with Councilmember Vernikoff, who is working with her community right now, addressing the issue in Ukraine. Today, we will begin by voting on two items we heard at our last meeting, LUs 13 and 14, the Castle 3107-111 East 123rd Street project, and LU 15, the Fifth Amendment of the East New York Urban Renewal Plan. We will then hold a public hearing on the New Providence development. Before we begin, I recognize the Subcommittee Council to review today's hearing procedures.
Thank you, Chair Lewis. I am Jeffrey Campagna, counsel to this subcommittee. Members of the public who wish to testify were asked to register for today's hearing. If you registered to testify and are not yet signed into Zoom, please sign in now and remain signed in until you have testified. If you wish to testify and have not registered, please go to www.council.nyc.gov/landuse to sign up now. If you are not planning to testify on today's items, please watch the hearing on the New York City Council website. All people testifying before the subcommittee will be on mute until they are recognized to testify. Please confirm that your mic is unmuted before you begin speaking. Public testimony will be limited to 2 minutes per witness. If you have written testimony that you would like the subcommittee to consider in addition to or in lieu of your appearing before the subcommittee, or if you require an accessible version of a presentation given at today's meeting, please email landusetestimony@council.nyc.gov. Please indicate the LU number and project name in the subject line of the email. During the hearing, council members who would like to ask questions should use the Zoom raise hand function. The raise hand button should appear at the bottom of the participant panel. I will announce council members who have questions in the order that they raise their hands. Witnesses are reminded to remain in the meeting until they are excused by the chair. Lastly, there may be extended pauses if we encounter technical problems. We ask that you please be patient as we work through these issues. Chair Lewis will now continue with today's agenda.
Thank you. We will now vote to approve LU numbers 13 and 14, the Castle 3107-111 East 123rd Street project. These applications submitted by the Department of Housing Preservation and Development pursuant to sections 197C and 201 of the New York City Charter and Article 16 of the General Municipal Law request approval of the following: the Urban Development Action Area designation, the Urban Development Action Area project for such area, a disposition of such property to a developer to be selected by HPD, and the grant of a special permit pursuant to section 74-903 of the zoning resolution to modify the requirements of section 24-111 to the permit the allowable community facility floor area ratio of section 2411 to apply to a nonprofit institution with sleeping accommodations in an R7-2 district These actions would facilitate the proposed construction of a 15-story building on a property located at 107 to 111 East 123rd Street in the Manhattan Council District represented by Councilmember Richardson Jordan. We will also vote to approve LU 15 proposed by Fifth Amendment of the East New York Urban Renewal Plan submitted by the Department of Housing Preservation and Development pursuant to Section 505 of Article 15 of the New York State General Municipal Law and Section 197C of the New York City Charter. The application requests approval of an amendment of the East New York 1 Urban Renewal Plan to allow residential development on a site previously designated as open space. The site is located in the Brooklyn Council District represented by Councilmember Barron. Council, please call the roll.
Chair, I believe that Councilmember Richardson Jordan had remarks about her item, the Castle 3 project, if you would like to.
Sorry about that. Councilmember Richardson Jordan, you have the floor.
So I just wanted to say that I'm strongly in favor of this project, Castle 3, and I hope members will support us in making some much needed supportive housing in our district. This project has 58 supportive housing units for those who are formerly incarcerated and or formerly houseless. In addition to that, it has 24 units of affordable housing. Is 100% affordable. It's also 100% green. It's invested in electric technology. There is going to be a teaching kitchen and additional resources for people who are in the building. And I'm really looking forward to the added value that I believe this will bring to our district. So please vote yes on Castle 3.
Thank you, Councilmember Richardson Jordan. Council, please call the roll.
Lewis,
I vote aye.
Belize,
I vote aye on all.
De La Rosa,
Aye.
Marte,
Aye.
Nurse,
Aye.
Hung.
Aye.
By a vote of 6 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, and with 0 abstentions, the items are approved and referred to the full land use committee. However, we will hold the vote open in case Councilmember Holden arrives. And now we may continue.
Thank you, Council. We will now proceed to today's public hearings on LUs 18 and 19 for the New Providence development. LU 18 is an application submitted by the Department of Housing Preservation and Development and the Department of Homeless Services, also known as DHS, pursuant to the Section 197C of the New York City Charter, requesting approval of public siting to modify a restriction, limiting the capacity of shelter facility. LU 19 is an application submitted pursuant to Article 16 of the General Municipal Law and Section 197C of the New York City Charter for the designation of an urban development action area, approval of an urban development action project for such area, and the disposition of such property to a developer to be selected by HPD. These applications would facilitate the construction of a development containing approximately 171 shelter beds, 130 supportive and affordable housing units located at 215-225 East 45th Street in Manhattan Council District represented by Majority Leader Powers. Is Majority Leader Powers available for remarks?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Chair Lewis. Thanks for having me. This project is located in my district. It's actually, at this moment, an existing shelter that's been in my district for some time. The project is actually meant to accommodate a new shelter with some extra beds, but also to build supportive housing in this area as well. I'm supportive of the project. Obviously, we have some questions to ask and want to make sure the project meets all of the needs here, but overall, it's an opportunity to, continue to invest in a shelter in my district, to build more supportive housing, which is desperately needed in this city right now, and to do it in an area sort of near Midtown and Grand Central, an area that is leaves many other people there with an opportunity to, access resources and services and be in an area with lots to offer. So with that being said, I'm looking forward to hear the presentation from the applicant as well. But in our conversation so far, I'm confident that we'll be able to get to a project that will be a good one, good for the city, good for the district, and will continue to make us move forward in our goals to house New Yorkers and to provide supportive housing, which is really needed at this particular time. So I'll leave it at that, and I have some questions when we're done with the presentation.
Thank you, Majority Leader Powers. We are joined by Joan Huang and Felipe Cortez, Tammy Ferlisi from HPD, Keith Engel from Datner Architects, forgive me for butchering that, Joseph Frewer, forgive me if I butchered your last name, from Project Renewal, and Frank Dubinsky from Monadnock Development. Council, please administer the affirmation.
Please raise your right hands and respond when I call your name. You affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before the subcommittee and in response to all council member questions. Joan Huang.
I do.
Keith Engel.
I do.
Philippe Cortez. Philippe
I
Cortez.
do. I do.
Joseph Frewer.
I do.
Tammy Ferlisi.
I do.
Frank Dubinsky.
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Your PowerPoint presentation will be posted on the screen if you request it, and we will begin once it's up.
Thank you, council members. So yes, I think we are ready to do a presentation. So if the presentation can be shared on the screen. Thank you so much. So good morning, council members. Thank you for the opportunity to present a New Providence redevelopment project located at 225 East 45th Street. Again, my name is Joan Huang. I'm joined today by my HPD colleagues and our development partners, Project Renewal, and the design and the consultant team today. Next slide, please. Thank you. To start, I think we would like to provide some background of this project. So the proposed development contains the 2 existing buildings used as a women's shelter, currently owned by DHS. And HPD is advancing this project in partnership with DHS and the Project Renewal. The proposed development will be a new 21-story building, providing approximately 171 shelter beds and 130 supportive affordable housing units with on-site social service and a ground floor medical clinic. So the land use action needed to facilitate the proposed development include UDAP designation and the project approval and the disposition of a city-owned land and the site selection. Next slide, please. So now I will turn the presentation over to our development partners for further detail of the project.
Thank you, Joan, and thank you everyone for your time and attention today. So a little bit about our mission and background. Project Renewal is a social service organization. Our mission is to end the cycle of homelessness by empowering individuals and families to renew their lives with health, homes, and jobs. We were established in 1967. We employ 900 people, operate 16 shelter and housing sites citywide, and manage 39 programs that serve more than 13,000 New Yorkers annually. Project Renewal complements our existing shelter and housing portfolio with a continuum of supportive services tailored to the need of the homeless and at-risk individuals that we serve. These include extensive healthcare and workforce development programming. And of course, one of the shelters that we operate is the New Providence shelter, the subject of this application. The current site, as you know, is currently owned by DHS and operated by us. It consists of 130 beds for homeless women diagnosed with mental health or substance use disorders. We provide comprehensive services on site. As Joan mentioned, the current site consists of 2 older buildings, one of which was actually a former convent, and these were retrofitted in the late 90s to serve as a shelter. Because of that retrofit, the existing layout is pretty inefficient. they had to join the two buildings. So for example, the floors between the buildings don't exactly line up, which is not optimal for clients and staff with disabilities. And so for that and a few other reasons, a redevelopment would really increase the quality of life for our residents, staff, and we think the whole community. And I should also note that the building is currently underbuilt per existing zoning. Next slide, please. So our development program, as Joan mentioned, the redevelopment of this provides an opportunity to modernize the shelter and maximize the buildable FAR to add permanent housing to the site, in addition to the shelter beds that we have. So as you can see on the grid, the proposed redevelopment program includes 130 new supportive and affordable housing units, all of them studios. 79 of those units would be supportive units for formerly homeless tenants, each paying no more than 30% of their income as rent. 51 of the units would be affordable for New Yorkers earning up to 60% of AMI. And again, this shows a little bit of a breakdown, including a one-bedroom supers unit that will also be on site. Aside from the supportive housing, we have the new purpose-built shelter with 171 beds serving the same population that is in our current building at the site. So again, this is single women with a mental health diagnosis. The ground floor of the building would include a new Article 28 medical clinic, and that's meant to serve residents as well as the broader community. I should mention the existing building also includes an Article 28 clinic that serves the community. However, it does not have a separate entrance from the shelter to the street. So functionally, it's pretty invisible to the community. They have to go through the whole shelter security apparatus to actually get to the clinic. So the way it's currently laid out, it's not very easy for the community members to access. So we're excited to change that with the new building with a separate entrance for the clinic that's on the street. So Project Renewal and our staff have been closely involved with the development team in the design of this building. We believe this new project will serve our clients, staff, and the surrounding community well. Honestly, it's rare to get an opportunity to have such direct input into the design of a shelter like this. And we're really excited to be developing this project along with such a committed team. So next slide, please, and I'll be handing it over to Keith.
Okay, great. Thank you, Joseph, and good morning, everyone. So with that, I'll walk everyone through just some of the key design items for this exciting project that I'm incredibly happy to be working on, starting with this slide, which is the plan of the ground floor of the project, which is comprised of the three major programs, the shelter component in blue, the supportive housing component in red, and the clinic component in yellow. These three programs have individual entries directly from 45th Street, the shelter to the west, supportive housing to the east, and a clinic at the center of the building. The public-facing clinic occupies a significant portion of the plan and the street wall, which will impart some activity onto the street wall experience. Next slide, please. So this next slide describes the second floor of the building, which comprises the more communal shelter programs that are required for shelter residents. A dining room is located along the front facade, which maximizes daylight and views. Commercial kitchen serving the shelter residents is located at the center of the plan. And one of the key design features, an exterior roof terrace, is provided at the rear of the building for passive recreation for both the shelter and the supportive housing residents. Next slide, please. So at the left of the slide, we illustrate just the general programmatic zoning of the building, just to kind of clarify where all the programs stack. Where the shelter in blue spans from the 2nd through the 6th floor, and the supportive housing spans at the tower portion of the building from the 7th floor through the 22nd floor. Also illustrated is how the overlapping zoning bulk controls are met for an as-of-right cohesive building envelope that maximizes the available site FAR. The typical supportive housing plan is illustrated on the right. Again, this layout spans from the 8th through the 21st floor, where 9 supportive studio units are provided per floor for a total of 130 supportive housing units plus 1 supers unit. Next slide, please. So this next slide describes both the 21-story massing and the street level experience of the building. The image on the left illustrates the view along East 45th Street, looking east. I would note the contextual relationship considered for our proposed building in its context, in particular to the 16-story A&E building to the east and the 33-story Wyndham Hotel to the west. The image on the right describes the relationship of the project to the street level experience, i.e. the clinic, where we considered how the ground floor program can inform and impart some activity onto the street level experience. Next slide, please. And so in terms of additional design features, the project will incorporate sustainable measures and provide a healthy living environment for residents. The project will meet enterprise green community standards, and just a highlight of some of the features provided will include items such as low flow plumbing fixtures, ample daylight opportunities throughout, healthy low VOC materials, and a high performance building envelope. The roof terrace that I spoke to previously will incorporate green elements while providing passive recreation for residents. Next slide, please. And with that, I'll turn it back to Joseph.
Thank you, Keith. So about local hiring, and we do have Frank from Monadnock here if there's any further questions about this. But Monadnock will be the general contractor for the building, and they have a lot of experience developing throughout the city, especially with local hiring and MWBE contracting in particular. Monadnock participates in the city's Hire NYC program on many projects, historically meeting or exceeding requirements for the city. Through Hire NYC, jobs are posted on the Hire NYC portal. We also work with the Small Business Services Workforce One system. We also work with the community board and the council members' offices to maximize outreach, but the team is also happy to work with any other organizations that we think could be helpful in referring more MWBEs to the project. So with that, I want to express our sincere thanks to Chair Lewis, Majority Leader Keith Powers for your support, and the whole council that's here today. And I think that wraps up our presentation.
Thank you for your testimony. I wanted to ask the council if there was any members that had questions.
Majority Leader Powers, I believe, has questions.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Chair Lewis. Thank you guys for the presentation as well. A few questions. One is, am I correct saying is this on city-owned land where you're building this on, or is it property that is being leased, or just kind of want to understand the arrangement in terms of how you're sort of just arranging between the shelter and the property that it's on?
So yes, I'll take that. So DHS currently owns the land, so it's city-owned land, and Project Renewal has an operating contract for the shelter on site.
Got it. Which makes it one of the reasons you could do this project is that you're able to take DHS owned city-owned property and then kind of make a further investment in it. And how long is the lease for right now with DHS?
So it's a renewable 10-year lease. So it's an ongoing long-term lease with the city that would just terminate upon the closing of construction.
Got it. And you've said this a little bit in your presentation. Can you just talk about what population is being served in the shelter today, currently, and then if and how that will change? And let's just talk on the shelter part of this first under this new development.
Sure. So we'll serve the same population in the new development as we are in the existing shelter. And so that is single adult women with a mental health diagnosis.
Got it. And you'll be adding how many beds as part of this?
So we are going to be up at, let me just pull up my chart so I don't botch the numbers here. Let's see, we are increasing the number of beds to 130. I'm sorry, it's 130 now. We're increasing it to 171. So in addition to 41 beds.
Got it. And then when we talk about the supportive and affordable housing units, you've talked about this a lot, about what population is eligible for those units?
So for the supportive units, and again, that's the 79 of the units will be supportive. So the population here is formerly homeless, New York City residents, all single adults, and they would be referred by HRA with a 2010E, meaning there's a mental health diagnosis. So chronically homeless, mental health diagnosis, single adults.
And formerly homeless, meaning they are coming at that moment out of the shelter, or what is the, how do we define that?
Yes, that is correct. They're coming out of the shelter system.
Got it. And can you tell us a little about the supportive services being offered to individuals and medical services there as well, and what will be added in as part of this project?
Sure. So as I think was on, as you could see on the ground floor slide, we have an Article 28 health clinic on the ground floor. So this is actually meant to serve both the community and the shelter and supportive housing residents on site. And so this is a fully licensed clinic. So we have primary care, we have psychiatric care, we have specialty care. Often that's referred out. But this is meant to be a full service clinic where people can come for primary care, preventative care, psychiatry, medication management, again, for the entire community as well as our residents. So we have that as well as a full range of case management services. I want to make clear, it can get confusing when you have a building with combined uses like this. We'll have a separate social services space just for the shelter residents. And so we have a full social services staff that includes case management, benefits assistance. We actually have an occupational therapy office, which we found really useful for our population, that has a training space and as well as a treatment office. We have workforce support, and then we offer referrals to all of the other project renewal services citywide. If there's any particular specialized service we don't offer on site with all of our social services teams, we would refer out to one of our other offices in Manhattan or across the city. And then I should mention, in the supportive housing space, we have a separate social services team with the exact same range of support service. So that's benefits assistance. We have case management, medication assistance. We have a psychiatrist who comes part-time to support our residents and make sure that they're staying up to date on any medications that they're on, as well as getting mental health treatment. I might be missing one or two things, but I think that covers most of the services we offer.
Is the clinic there now, or is that being added as part of
the clinic is there, so it's kind of nestled within the existing shelter that we have on site. But it's not very visible from the street because it doesn't have its own entrance. You have to go into the shelter, up the stairs, to actually get into the clinic space. So, it currently is technically open to the community, and we welcome the community, but most of the services provided are for the shelter residents right now. We think this new building will allow us to actually serve the community a lot better, in addition to the residents.
And what are there other models like this in the city right now that you could point to as being similar? Is this a new? Obviously, I think part of it's because it's DHS owns the property, I assume, is part of the formula here, but can you point to any other sort of models like this right now in the city? Are there any other sort of similar examples?
This is our first as an organization. I think when you look at the combination of shelter and permanent housing, that has been done. There's a BRC example in the Bronx, the Landing Roan project that opened a few years back, that's been really successful. And I know that there's another couple of projects in the pipeline. I just don't know too many details. If anyone else on my team would like to chip in on that.
Someone from DHS is here, right?
This is Tammy from HPD. I'm in special needs housing, and there are quite a few developments that we have that we've worked in collaboration with DHS, essentially where there's city-owned land that's underutilized. HPD has been partnering with DHS to create new purpose-built shelter as well as permanent affordable housing. And so as part of the supportive housing request for qualifications, we're working with qualified nonprofit developers to expand to do the new shelter and permanent housing model that we're calling Homestretch. And so there's one on 108th Street that's finishing up with Wishfish. We just were finished up ULURP for one in the Bronx. And so slowly but surely we're adding this type of housing typology to our work. And happy to share any details on any of those as well.
If you could send over some other other sort of similar examples, it might be helpful. Sure. And the other question I had here was, can you just, and maybe this is for project renewal, but can you just discuss a little bit, like if I'm an individual in the shelter versus an individual in the supportive housing unit, what is different here in terms of what I'm receiving in terms of services? Can you outline the differences for us? We know the population difference, obviously, but can you talk about what your experience differences between being an individual referred into the shelter versus an individual who is getting supportive housing services?
Sure. So, I mean, as you know, this is all part of a continuum that probably a lot of both the supportive housing residents and the shelter residents are on, right? And so if you are a shelter resident, you'll be working with your support worker, your case manager, to basically fill out all the forms you need to qualify for our specialized shelter beds. So basically we work with DHS, and, I don't think, we have anyone from DHS here right now, but basically as people come into the intake center at DHS, they will, if they match our qualifications, meaning they have a mental health diagnosis that would qualify them for our shelter, and a single adult woman, DHS basically would feed us any clients that they have. So our team works directly with DHS to intake those individuals. We do a full comprehensive review of their benefits, of their current health needs, any treatment plans they're on, and they're integrated as quickly as possible into the shelter, where they work with their case management, medical, and mental health team. And the goal there is to prepare them as quickly as possible for permanent housing. And that's a balance. We don't want to push people into permanent housing before they're ready. The goal of our staff is to make sure folks coming out of the DHS system are stabilized, they can live independently, they're on a steady treatment plan for any substance use or mental health issues they might have. And our staff makes a determination for when they're ready for supportive housing. Basically, when can they live independently in supportive housing with some on-site support services, of course, to help them succeed. So their experience really is around readiness. It's around stabilization, readiness, and our staff is just continuously making a determination about whether we can refer them out to supportive housing. And so hopefully we'll have a lot of internal referrals here. We might have women in the shelter who we can refer directly to vacancies in the permanent supportive units, in the tower in the same building. So as a supportive housing resident at the site, it's a very different experience. So as you saw on kind of the slides about how the building is set up, there's a separate lobby and kind of separate entrance area for the shelter and the supportive housing, because we want people to feel like if they're coming out of the shelter system, especially, that they have advanced to what feels like a normal New York City apartment building. There's a package room, there's a mail room, there's front desk. Like this should feel like any other apartment building in the city. So the only difference is that I think it's on the 7th floor, we have a wide range of amenities. So we have a multi-purpose room with a lounge for residents to gather. We'll have spaces for group therapy. We'll have individual therapy spaces. Both the shelter and the supportive housing residents will have separate outdoor spaces on the rear of the 2nd floor. So they are accessed through a separate entrance because we do want people to feel like if they're in the supportive housing, they're no longer in the shelter system, even if the buildings are technically shared. But those residents are on leases. This should be a very kind of standard New York City quality of life. The only difference is that there's staff on site, and everyone has a designated case manager and other support workers who can help make sure that people are getting the services they need to stay in our building, hopefully for as long as they need to, in many cases for many years.
Got it. Appreciate that. Just a few more questions, and I'll hand it back over to the chair. The actual construction of this, do you have a contractor lined up to do the actual work here to build and demolish and all that stuff? And if a constituent or a neighbor has a issue as this is going through the actual process of being built, how do they reach out to that person? And similarly, just give us any sense of the timelines and things like that.
Maybe Frank, do you mind jumping in?
Sure. Councilman, I'm Frank Dubinsky from Monadnock Development. Our contracting affiliate, Monadnock Construction, will be the general contractor. And absolutely, people can reach out to us. We'll have a hotline if people have issues. We're happy to work with the community board if there are other ways to engage with the community to make sure people are comfortable and have the information they need as far as construction scheduling.
It would be helpful if we could just maybe set aside meeting just to talk about construction noise, hours, all that stuff, just so
Sure.
the neighbors feel engaged, involved, and know how to address any issues that might pop up. Just one last one before I go, and then I have others, but we'll just send them over in terms of some details of the plan. Just give us a sense of what community board and borough president's recommendation were here for on this project. As for project renewal.
So we have not yet engaged with the neighboring buildings. We typically wait until we're a little further along in the design.
No, sorry.
process.
The question was, what was the community board's resolution and the borough president's resolution on this?
So they both voted in favor of this. So we got yes votes from the community board, from the borough president, and let's see. We have reached out to the BID, of course, and other local nonprofits. But I think.
Okay, thank you guys.
Sure.
We'll put over other questions. If you can maybe also have a conversation on the construction at some point, that would be extremely helpful.
Happy to.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Appreciate the time.
Thank you, Majority Leader. I have a lot of questions, some programmatic, some technical. So let's start. The medical clinic currently has one egress. Is the proposed new entrance included in the blueprint presented today?
Yes, it is. If it's helpful, we could pull up the presentation so we could take a look at.
I want to make sure it's there for the record, so that's why I'm asking the question. So you don't have to pull it up because I know we don't have a lot of time, but I wanted to make sure it was there for the record. I'm still concerned about the roof terrace. Can you share if the roof terrace will be housed in the area the shelter will be located, and will clients have access to it, and what safety measures will be included?
So the roof terrace is on the rear of the second floor of the building. So this floor is mostly dedicated to shelter services spaces. And actually the roof terrace will have a portion that'll be used by shelter residents and another portion that'll be used by the permanent housing residents, even though it's technically the same space running along the full back of the building. So everyone has access. There's a separate elevator for the permanent housing tenants to access their space. And the elevator bank for the shelter also goes out onto the second floor, and there will be access to that space, whenever we have enough staff available to supervise. So I would assume at all hours except overnight. We expect to have that space open, because it's a major benefit to have folks using that space rather than gathering elsewhere on the block or in the community. We want to make it very attractive for people to use and hang out. As far as security, we work with Keith over at Datner, basically to make sure we have, fencing that ensures safety that also, feels welcoming and doesn't feel institutional. So I don't know, Keith, is there anything specific about that you'd want to cover?
I think those are the main things. I think perhaps something that we can mention too is at the rear of the building, we're also kind of sheltered by pretty much buildings on all three sides. So safety issues are a little bit less of a concern, just because we have that sense of security around the entire terrace. Otherwise, there would be fencing measures that we would employ. We do also have a separation between the shelter populations and the supportive housing populations as a way to kind of break apart the terrace area into two discrete zones. And I think Joseph, you spoke to just the fact that both of these zones have like a discrete access specifically for the supportive housing residents and specifically for the shelter residents.
All right, I hope the amenities will be the same as well on both sides. If we're talking about equity and the equitable New York, I'm assuming that it will be equitable on both sides. It was mentioned earlier in the testimony that the 79 affordable housing units will be studios. So my assumption, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, that is intended for individuals and not families. But we also did not get the mix or description of the mix of the 51 units, if that could be shared for the record.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. So all of them, including those 51 units, will be studio units. And so, yes, those are meant for individuals and not families.
The 79 is meant for individuals, studios. What about the 51 mix, if you could share that?
Yes, those are also studios for individuals.
Okay, so nothing for families.
That's correct.
All right, we need to talk about that a little bit more. And can the panel describe the comprehensive services that Project Renewal will be providing to clients that have severe mental illness? I know that's a programmatic question, but I would like to know for the record.
Sure. So we have a fully staffed social services operation here. So that includes, we have intake staff, case managers who offer benefits assistance, health and psychosocial assessments. We offer therapy. We offer primary care, psychiatric treatment. We have a whole occupational therapy wing on the rear of the first floor. We found that a lot of our clients really need that. So we have a training space in that occupational therapy area, as well as a treatment office for all of our clients. We also refer to job training and assistance programs. Project Renewal has, a pretty robust workforce development program across New York City. So we'll have a case manager on staff that will refer out to that program if a client would like and if they're ready. And we also offer group therapy, and I'm trying to think if I'm missing anything. I believe that covers it.
Okay, thank you for that. And I wanted to know, last question regarding the programmatic services. Is Project Renewal working with any of the healthcare facilities in the area at a higher level, like a hospital, Mount Sinai, or any of the other hospitals, in the event one of the clients needs a higher level of service?
So I'll answer what I can. I do know that our staff, and especially the staff of the Article 28 clinic already on site, is in touch with the local medical institutions in that part of town, including NYU, Bellevue. I don't know exactly the nature of the relationships, but I do know that they are frequently in touch with medical staff at those hospitals.
Okay, that'll be really important to know for the future. And sure. Monadnock has extensive experience, has been working in New York City for a long time. So I know that they're fully aware of the hiring process and how to hire locally. But I do know Hire NYC and some of the other institutions mentioned earlier are not effective tools for hiring. So I wanted to know, are you working with building trades, unions? I know you said you're going to work with the majority leader's office, but that's not enough.
Sure.
What other strategies are going to be put in place for hiring?
So, and we're doing this on our NYCHA project on 28th Street. We do training. We reach out to local residents. We provide OSHA trainings. On a typical project, we might hire 30 to 50 local people to work on the project. And so if the community board has people we want to reach out to and talk about what trainings are available, we're happy to do that. We work with a group called Urban Strategies of New York, who helps us sort of talk to the local groups, talk to the community board, and ensure that we're reaching out to the appropriate groups. And we will be very, I think, effective at finding people who want to work, training them, and getting them to work, whether it's on this project or another one of our projects. So we're actually going to start that now, long before construction starts, to ensure that we have the outreach that's needed. So yes, we do much more than Hire NYC, but we will comply with Hire NYC and the other government requirements.
And it would be great if you could consider building trades and unions, because they do.
Understood. Yes.
Training. Thank you. Council, is there any other council members that have questions?
If any council members have questions, please use the raise hand button now. We'll stand by for just a moment.
Mm-hmm.
I see no council member questions.
Thank you, council. Thank you, everyone, for your testimony. There will be no more council member questions for this panel. This panel is now excused. Are there any members of the public who wish to testify on LUs 18 and 19, the New Providence Development Project?
There are several members of the public here to testify on this item. The first panel is Kim Baker, Robert Stinson, Ann Hirsch, and Meryl Brodsky.
Time starts now.
Well, let's wait for them to get in.
Thank you. My name is Kim Baker, and I appreciate seeing this full presentation of the plans for our community. I am an immediate resident of this project, and I'm just going to hold up this sign quickly here. I'm sorry, it's low tech, but you'll see the three properties that I'm going to speak about: New Providence, our building here, of which I'm a board member with 300 cooperative apartments, and then Dag Hammarskjöld Plaza here. Now, as a resident in the neighborhood, we are concerned to learn that the city is proposing to bring 300 individuals to our neighborhood that will require full-time psychiatric care, given what we're observing on the streets of the neighborhood as it is. And we have to say that this is news to many of us. And while I've been a volunteer at Friends of Dag Hammarskjöld Plaza for many years now, and I'm on the board of directors, we have confronted issues of bad behavior, rough behavior, stripping, everything you could possibly imagine in Friends of Dag Hammarskjöld Plaza on a daily basis for years. And we're very concerned about the idea that this facility will bring more than twice that population to our neighborhood with virtually no consideration for how that will affect the residents of the community. I'm going to say very clearly that what we are looking for as an organization, Friends of Dag Hammarskjöld Plaza, volunteer organization, is a financial commitment from the city and/or New Providence to help us clean up the mess that this project will bring for the foreseeable future. And I would also like clarification on when these nonprofits in the neighborhood who've been reached out to will be contacted, because all of the nonprofits we've communicated with have heard nothing about this project, and we're finding out it rather late in the game. So we are very concerned about how this will change our community and our enormous public space here, which is the daytime location of many of the residents of this facility at present. Thank you.
Robert Stinson is next.
Time starts now.
My name is Robert Stinson, and I and my colleague Kim Baker serve on the board of the Friends of Dag Hammarskjöld Plaza, which is on 47th Street between 1st and 2nd Avenues. I also serve as a liaison with the 17th Precinct New York Police Department for the board. I live in the neighborhood on East 52nd Street. As a background to our response, we are already having a serious problem with the mentally ill homeless population in the plaza and also in the neighborhood. As an example, a seriously mentally ill homeless man has been camping on 52nd Street on the sidewalk and in the outdoor dining area of Mimi's restaurant at 52nd Street and 2nd Avenue. He has threatened Mimi's staff, run screaming up and down the street, and repeatedly been violently ill on the sidewalk. Nevertheless, we are told by the police and the EMS that they cannot do anything about this situation without the mentally ill man's approval, in spite of numerous phone calls from the neighborhood. Basically, we have to wait for a crime to be committed before the police can act. We have repeatedly had the situation in the plaza as well with other homeless people. The new shelter at the Vanderbilt Y and elsewhere have exacerbated the problem, with their clients left to roam the streets during the day and causing unsafe and unsanitary situations to arise, especially in the garden area and non-working fountains at the plaza and throughout the neighborhood. While we are very supportive of helping the homeless population, providing a clinic and providing affordable housing, we have two concerns. First, what purpose does this clinic serve if so many of the mentally homeless already in the neighborhood are not willing to be admitted? The second is, if there's an increased mentally ill homeless population because of Project Renewal with those clients who are willing to be admitted and are left to wander our streets during the day, what is Project Renewal willing to do to supplement our strained funding for maintaining the plaza and neighborhood? We have hired people to clean the plaza since the city is not keeping it clean, and volunteers are constantly cleaning excrement and needles from our garden area. While the police have tried to be responsive to disruptive behavior, the situation has become overwhelming, and we need funds to clean the plaza and staff from Project Renewal through the DHS to assist us in monitoring the plaza and the neighborhood.
Time expired.
Okay, thank you for your attention.
And Hirsch is next.
Time starts now.
My name is Ann Hirsch. I have served with Friends of Dag Hammarskjöld Plaza from the very beginning when the park opened in 1999. So that's more than 20 years. And before that, I was with the Turtle Bay Association fighting to get this park reconstructed. And from the very beginning, there has been a homeless problem because it's an ungated property. However, over these years, I have seen an escalation in the kind of homelessness we experience because there's a great deal more drug abuse and the substance abuse and the kind of drugs that are used and the level of violence and acting out. And I kept hearing the word mental illness as you reviewed your facility. And this mental illness issue spreads naturally into our public spaces. And it is intimidating to the population of people that have bought into the area, that rent in the area. We serve a big senior population. We have a lot of families with children. And naturally, when you start seeing needles in the park, and this is a constant everyday appearance now, it didn't used to be that way. And at the same time, the cost of services like hiring someone to sweep, a broom and sweep operation, has absolutely skyrocketed. We now, from out of the goodness of our neighbors, are hiring a part-time person who is actually came out of the Doe Fund rehab process, and he has been wonderful, but he can only serve 3 times a week. It's part-time. That's the best we can do. And we really need financial help. The Parks Department, as everyone knows, is starving. They are
Time expired.
The next panelist is Meryl Brodsky.
Time
Hi
starts
there.
now.
Thank you. I'm Meryl Brodsky. I'm talking on behalf of TBA, which spans about 43rd Street to 53rd Street, Midtown East Manhattan. I'm also a board member of Friends, as well as a district leader in the area. And I appreciate the opportunity to be here today. Okay, what Ann was saying and what the others, and Kim and Bob, is true. There is an increasing homeless problem in the area of Turtle Bay, which I just described to you. We have participated, Turtle Bay people, with the 17th precinct in graffiti removal, mustered the support of DOT, Department of Sanitation, and DHS in tracking the problem. TBA strongly recommends the disposition of funds procured from the East 45th Street Project Renewal Shelter expansion for the maintenance and security of Dag Hammarskjöld Plaza and TBA environments. Here we are doing graffiti removal. Okay, that's our gang. Let me continue. It was interesting to note that at the Community Board 6 meeting, security concerns were never mentioned. The transfer of city property ownership for capital improvements of $100 million is a windfall for project renewal. We should address the quality of life violations in Dag Hammarskjöld, since we are tasked with keeping the park clean and green. It will help to keep documenting the violations, the misdemeanors, etc. The Friends have a resolution stating our demands, and will try to cut a deal on safety measures and sanitation in the future. We have submitted testimony to the Planning Commission with a window we created post-vote. We hereby reserve the right to revisit our demands for security and maintenance procured from Project Renewal's expansion for Dag Hammarskjöld Plaza and TBA environs.
Time expired.
Thank you.
If there are any council member questions for this panel, please use the raise hand button now. Seeing none, this panel is excused, and the next panel will be Catherine Trapani, Ryan Pukos, Marissa Williams, and Moira Akoma.
Time starts now.
We'll start with Catherine Trapani.
Thank you. Good morning, members of the committee, Chair Lewis. My name is Catherine Trapani, and I'm the Executive Director of Homeless Services United. I appreciate the opportunity to testify today in support of Project Renewal's redevelopment of New Providence into supportive and affordable housing and a new purpose-built shelter, and the accompanying actions required to transfer ownership of the property to Project Renewal. Homeless Services United is a coalition of mission-driven nonprofit agencies serving homeless and at-risk adults and families in New York City that promotes effective solutions to end the crisis of homelessness in New York. Our member agencies operate hundreds of programs, including shelters, drop-in centers, food pantries, eviction prevention, and outreach services. Our strength is in the collective wisdom and expertise of our membership. Organizations that ensure that the city upholds its legal and moral obligation to provide shelter to everyone who needs it in New York City, while also working tirelessly to ensure that as few New Yorkers as possible will ever need our help. As executive director of HSU and as somebody who personally has lived half a block away from a stabilization bread program for chronically homeless adults for several years, I know that well-run and properly planned and maintained shelters make good neighbors. For this reason, I hope you'll vote to recommend that this project be allowed to move forward. The current building is poorly designed and is in need of upgrades. This project will rebuild the shelter from scratch with a design that supports access to services. Things like the ground floor clinic, security will promote dignity for the residents and security for the neighbors. Ground floor services will make things accessible. Wide hallways will create safety, easy flow throughout the space, and good sight lines. The outdoor space on the roof deck, which is away from the street level, allows residents to safely recreate and socialize. The difference that client-centered design makes is transformative for both clients and neighbors, and having spaces that are welcoming and efficient make residents more comfortable, enhance access to utilization of services, and promotes better outcomes. Simple things like improving flow
Time
can make
expired.
it. Thank you very much. I hope you move to approve the project.
Thank you. The next panelist is Ryan Pukos.
Time starts now.
Good morning. My name is Ryan Pukos. I'm with the Grand Central Partnership. The Grand Central Partnership is a business improvement district serving approximately 70 square block area in Midtown East surrounding Grand Central Terminal. As one of the world's largest bids, serving a district with 76 million square feet of commercial, residential, and retail building space, our goals are to keep our Midtown East neighborhood clean, safe, and thriving. We believe that Project Renewal's New Providence project supports these goals in the following ways. First, the New Providence project, the New Providence redevelopment will transform what is currently an aged city-owned facility into a beautiful state-of-the-art building that will activate the streetscape and create 130 deeply affordable and supportive housing units. The supportive housing units in New Providence will provide homes for formerly homeless New Yorkers and will specifically target chronically homeless individuals. Based on our ongoing work with Breaking Ground, our frontline homeless services provider and one of the city's largest providers of supportive housing, we know that it can be very difficult to move these individuals from the street to housing when a supportive housing option is not available. Second, New Providence will feature a public-facing health clinic serving mostly low-income New Yorkers. We plan to work with Project Renewal and Breaking Ground to coordinate outreach and share data to ensure that street homeless New Yorkers, especially those living in our district, as well as others in Midtown East, know that the health clinic is a resource available to them. For these reasons, including the benefits to quality of life for the street homeless in our district, we are supportive of the New Providence project. Thank you.
Excuse me. The next panelist is Marissa Williams.
Time starts now.
Good morning, Chair Lewis and members of the committee. My name is Marissa Williams, and I'm a representative of 32BJ SEIU. I am here on behalf of more than 85,000 32BJ members here to express their support for this project. The developers HPD, DHS, and Project Renewal have applied to dispose of and redevelop a city-owned site, which includes a shelter. We are pleased to announce that Project Renewal has reached out early to make a credible commitment to provide prevailing wage jobs to the future security workers at this site. 32BJ supports responsible developers who invest in the communities where they build. The best way to make sure that the developments like the one proposed have a positive impact on building service workers is for the developers to make a formal commitment to pay the prevailing wage and create good jobs with family-sustaining wages and benefits. We know that this development will continue to uphold the industry standard and provide opportunities for working families to thrive. For these reasons, we are in full support of this project and we respectfully urge you to approve this rezoning. Thank you.
Thank you. The next panelist is Moira McComas.
Time starts now.
Hi, members of the committee and Chair Lewis. My name is Moira McComas. I'm the policy analyst at the Supportive Housing Network of New York, which is a statewide organization that advocates on behalf of supportive housing providers. I speak today on behalf of the network to express our strong support for the New Providence redevelopment. So for those that are less familiar, supportive housing is deeply affordable, permanent housing with wraparound social services like case management, occupational therapy, as Joseph has mentioned, and it provides homes and stability for those most vulnerable in our society. The New Providence redevelopment will transform what is currently an aged city-owned shelter into a beautiful state-of-the-art building that will create 130 deeply affordable and supportive housing units, as well as the health clinic serving the community of low-income New Yorkers. At a time when the city faces dual housing and homelessness is looking at the end of an eviction moratorium, it's more than critical than ever before that we all work together to ensure that we create new homes and say yes to every opportunity to make a dent in the shelter census. Additionally, Project Renewal is a highly respected nonprofit. They have operated the shelter in the neighborhood for decades. They are and have been a responsible neighbor and partner. I can think of no better provider to lead this development to create new housing opportunities that can permanently end homelessness for New Yorkers in need. So thank you for providing this opportunity for me to express my strong support of the New Providence project, and we really hope that this project will be approved. Thank you.
If there are any council members who have questions, please use the raise hand button now. Seeing no council member questions, this panel is excused, and we will move on to the next panel. The next panel is Diana Antioser, Linfei Yang, Joan Boyle, and Cheryl Kazan.
Time starts now.
Diana Antioser, you can begin.
Thank you. Sorry, my hit start video. I am a longtime resident of this neighborhood. I moved here in 1997, the year the shelter opened. I am 1 block away on 44 East 44th Street. And I did not even know there was a shelter there for many, many years. Up until about 5 to 10 years ago, it has progressively gotten worse in my neighborhood. The street of 45th Street, there are constant people harassing both male and female friends of the residents. There's constant fighting. There are women hanging out at 45th and 2nd that are part of the shelter. Police are constantly called there. I don't feel safe after dark walking down 45th Street and shopping at the Amish market due to people on both corners and having been harassed both verbally and been verbally told I would be assaulted by them for no reason other than walking down the street. My concern with this, while I am a huge proponent for solving homelessness, and I think your building is lovely and would be beautiful in the neighborhood and everything inside is great, my concern is you are only concerned with the beauty and what's inside and not what's outside, and people coming out into the neighborhood and the responsibility to the neighborhood. We are considering the needs of few versus the needs of all the many in the neighborhood. And it's not fair to live in the safest neighborhood in New York, which is now no longer safe. And so I'd like that to be a consideration for approval, is that there is more responsibility to what's outside the shelter in our neighborhood. Police are repeatedly called. If you look at the Google reviews currently, it's a 2-star or less review by people who have been residents there. How is this changing just because your facility is going to be new and beautiful? What are you doing to treat people?
Time expired.
Thank you.
Next panelist is Linfei Yang. I'm sorry if I got your name wrong.
Time starts now.
Hi, my name is Linfei, and I'm the director of social media for Friends of Dag Hammarskjöld Plaza and a longtime resident as well of 47th Street. And I just want to say that we are not against the project renewal. It may come off that way, but that's just because our members are passionate. They've been longtime residents of the area, and they really just care about the neighborhood. What we are saying, however, is that in order for project renewal to live up to the mission that it stated, it must also coordinate with the respective community organizations and have us work together to achieve the goal of an equitable situation for individuals that are experiencing homelessness. And that not only just includes their internal programming, but also external programming as well. So what we are asking for is for there to be a provision with the budget that surrounds project renewal, whether that's to do with the city or with project renewal itself, that basically is a financial commitment for a safety officer that can act, that can provide de-escalation, that can monitor the plaza, that can provide resources for any individuals experiencing homelessness in the area. That is all that we are asking for. But that so far, as other members have said, have not happened yet. We have not been consulted. And again, I want to stress that we are not against this project. We just would like for it to be edited and rewritten, and just for our input to be heard. Because we have worked with other community organizations on the same issue before. We worked with the 47th Street YMCA to turn their facility into a temporary shelter for for individuals experiencing homelessness during the peak of the coronavirus pandemic.
Time expired.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next panelist is Joan Boyle.
Time starts now.
Joan Boyle, please unmute yourself. You've been recognized.
Good morning. Sorry, I didn't realize. I'm Joan Boyle. I live at 321 East 43rd Street in Tudor City, where I have lived for 30 years. I'm a volunteer for the Undomiciled Project at St. Peter's and an overnight volunteer for Holy Family Church Basement Shelter in the past for many years. I have to rise to speak not against providing services, but against this particular operation, which has not been functioning to really help the homeless residents. I'm concerned because it changes completely what happens in our neighborhood, because those residents currently at Project Renewal are not being helped. And why Project Renewal would be selected to continue what has at least 10 years of really bad behavior, bad anger, acting out on the street, threatening, attacking, that's going on. I personally witnessed it 4 occasions, but I attended the February meeting with the Police Build the Block group, and they're trying to deal with someone who's ever they can't control. I have seen people standing in front of the shelter with staff trying to control them and not being able to. It's unfortunate that if you could have supported housing, but someone that really could help the residents and not Project Renewal. There have been just a snapshot, March 25th, 2019, ABC 7.
Time expired.
Thank you. The last panelist is Cheryl Kazan.
Time starts now.
Cheryl Kazan, is she here?
She's on mute.
Cheryl Kazan, please unmute yourself. Give it 1 more minute. Cheryl Kazan. Committee will stand at ease while we resolve this issue. Cheryl Kazan, you're unmuted. You can speak now.
May I speak? Can you hear me?
You can.
Okay, thank you. I'm Cheryl Kazan. I'm the president of Friends of Dag Hammarskjöld Plaza. and I also represent, I'm affiliated to the United Nations as well. I don't want to be redundant. All of my board members said everything very clearly, and I so much respect the fact that you're listening to us, and I hope that we'll have some resolve. The real problem is back to the security issue and our mission to keep the plaza clean and green, which has been our mission for over 20 years. We're not in a position to constantly stand out there and do the work the city does not do, and what's enhanced by the population, which is increasing due to the coming mental health clinic and the project in general, which we're not here to demonize anyone. As has been said by all of my board members and others in the community, what we need is the assistance of both the city, Project Renewal, to put some of the funds that they spend on public relations towards the upkeep and the security of this issue. The security has to be a 24/7 situation because it's a 24/7 open space. And we've already had issues. Even in the cold weather 3 days ago, my apartment faces the plaza on 47th Street. It's an unbelievable experience to hear yelling, screaming, knocking down cans and running back and forth. It's a mental health issue and it needs to be cared for properly. But why are we the ones who can't express ourselves for quality of life, public health issues that no one listens to? We can't be orphaned by this situation. And in terms of BIDs, we don't belong to any of them because we're considered an outside area, which is very unfortunate. So it's wonderful that everyone is in support of something that could be very useful if there is the conditions of security and the proper cleanup crew that would be there actually every day throughout the day, because you don't live here, you're not there. We were told that there is a group from Project Renewal who patrols the area discreetly. What we need is to engage with them, whoever they are, because for us, they're phantom. We
Time
cannot
expired.
this way. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Are there any council members who have questions for this panel? If you do, please use the raise hand button now.
Mansour.
Seeing none,
Mansour.
panel,
You're-
and Chair Lewis, that is the last panel of
Thank you, Council. Kim, Merrill, Robert, Ann, Catherine, Ryan, Moria, Marissa, Diana, Lynn Fang, Cheryl, and Joan, thank you all for your testimony. I hope the concerns you've raised here today will be taken into consideration and some methods of resolve will be implemented. I also want to share that we've been joined by Councilmember Hanks. This concludes today's business. I want to remind you that if you have written testimony on today's items, you may submit it at landusetestimony@council.nyc.gov. Please indicate the LU number or the project name in the subject heading. I would like to thank the applicants, members of the public, my colleagues, subcommittee council, land use staff, and the Sergeant at Arms for participating in today's hearing. This meeting is now adjourned.